Oh, you idiot, you turned on the camera? Ah, pay attention, fool. Turn on that camera right away. Calm down, man. Calm down. Calm down. I'm turning it on. Hello, my subscribers. This is a new video on our channel, and we are the channel without strategy. I'm Kang, a rank B adventurer and also a MeTuber. In today's video, I will show you a tutorial on how to attack a rank C monster called Arachne. The first thing you need to know is that they move in groups and they are very similar to spiders. In fact, they could be considered spiders, but obviously, you must have noticed that these spiders are quite different from the ones we have here on Earth. They also don't attack immediately, instead they spit webs. Okay, let me get back to my first-person voice as a narrator because I'm not able to capture this guy's vibe. And the moment he said they didn't attack suddenly, they started screaming, and it became clear that their tutorial wasn't very accurate. Suddenly, one of the arachnes started attacking. It aimed specifically at the cameraman, but Kang managed to defend him and ask the cameraman what he was doing. He should drop that camera and start fighting. However, the cameraman, who was also the editor named Mong-Soo, declared that he couldn't fight. And with this declaration, the situation got a bit worse. The reason was simple. The original combat style of the arachnes wasn't to fight individually, but to hunt. So first, they spun webs to immobilize their opponent and injected venom to immobilize them, then killed them. That's why they were so shocked by this sudden situation. And combined with Mong's declaration, Kang got even more nervous. Then he said, "We'll talk later, Mong-Soo." Boy, when my mom said that, there was nothing to listen to. It was just shooting, punches, and bombs. If Kang was like my mom, Mong was in big trouble because you could already see the guy was strong just by seeing him split the spiders in half so easily. Since it was so easy for him, he quickly finished the job. At that moment, the cute little guy he showed at the beginning of the video disappeared, and then he declared, "Hatame, what the heck is this? The arachnes shouldn't spit webs first." Kang started reflecting in his mind. This arachne's attack would be its last resort against its prey. However, this changes if they were in a desperate situation. While thinking about this, Kang called his attention, snapping him out of his thoughts. He arrived holding Mong by the collar, questioning if that was the way he thought to deal with him. Mong even tried to apologize, but Kang shouted, "Is that all you have to say? Sorry? I almost got killed because of you." With that, he landed a punch right in Mong's stomach and asked if he hadn't done his research correctly. Turning away, he said, "That's why people like you without talents are always a problem." And upon hearing this, our Supra seemed to fall into despair because he didn't have a talent or individuality. This individuality is a special ability granted when someone is awakened, commonly referred to as a unique skill or individuality. And of course, our protagonist is one of those awakened people. However, his awakened ability is individualistic, essentially talentless. Because it is not a special ability, individualistic people are completely useless in the hunter industry. The method he chose to survive was to cling to the hunters. In simpler terms, he would get involved and analyze the monsters and provide strategies to defeat them. But today was a fateful day and an unexpected situation occurred. Kang began to declare, "That damn bastard, I almost died because of him. If it weren't for me, we would all be dead." Apparently, he didn't manage to kill all the monsters because behind him, there was a very tiny spider. However, this missing spider wasn't a normal spider, it was an elite spider. Explaining this elite monster thing, it is a phenomenon resulting from a common monster undergoing double transformation. In other words, it is a normal monster, but twice as strong. If he was already in shock with common monsters, imagine with an elite. At this moment, Kang began to think, "I'm going to die here. No, I need to survive, and to survive, I need bait." And he already had the perfect bait in his mind. At that moment, Kang kicked our protagonist right in the face, catching him by surprise. Kang still had the audacity to declare, "Since you did a poor research job, you should take responsibility for your actions." Our protagonist, who had been doing fine with common spiders, was now lying on the ground, unable to move against the elite monster. As he faced the monster while it attacked, he began to have that legendary flashback. In this memory, he was in the hospital next to a bed, filled with great anguish in his heart. On her deathbed, his mother asked him to take care of his sister. Remembering this, he began to reflect, "I cannot die here. This is for my sister, for my family, For this reason, I need to survive by any means necessary. Using the katana he had picked up from the ground, he started to advance toward the monster, shouting, "I will survive!" But before he could make his heroic move, a huge explosion happened, throwing him backward. When he recovered, in front of him stood a blonde guy with a hood and a red cape. Apparently, the source of that explosion was this guy. However, the explosions didn't end there. Another one occurred behind them, but this time it was purple, and from the explosion emerged a guy with white hair and tattoos on his body, shouting, "Where did you hide, you bastard?" Without further ado, he simply jumped, preparing to attack the blonde guy. The blonde guy, of course, was not going to stand still and charged at him. While the two were fighting, our protagonist was just like us, wondering, who are these two and why are they fighting? Their battle was high level, with their punches causing huge explosions. Seeing that level of power firsthand, it became clear that even the elite-level Arachne was trembling with fear, which meant these two were at a devastating level. The battle continued for a while, with the two exchanging powerful blows, one hitting while the other dodged, and vice versa. In the midst of this fight, our protagonist was still trying to understand who these two were. Suddenly, the white-haired guy managed to push off the wall and land a kick in the blonde guy's stomach, which seemed to hurt a lot, because the explosion from the impact damaged the entire cave they were in. At that moment, the white-haired guy began to ask, "Where did you hide it?" "Don't play dumb, I know it was you." The blonde guy told him to calm down, saying the fight wasn't even over and he already wanted the reward. Out of nowhere, he started gathering a great power in his hand, turning it into a ball, and the white-haired guy did the same. At the same moment, the two attacked, and the power impact was immense. The white-haired guy asked, "You know if this continues, you'll be in danger," but the blonde guy said it was fine. Turning to our protagonist, he said, "I already had an open possibility. I'm sorry for involving you, kid." The white-haired guy asked if he was really going to do that, and his response was given with a great circle using the powers of both, which caused a massive explosion. Obviously, neither of the two would come out unscathed, and the other one who wouldn't come out unscathed was our protagonist. However, addressing his last words to the protagonist, he said, "I'll leave everything to you." At that moment, a shield protected our protagonist while the explosion happened. After a while of fighting and explosions here and there, the dungeon fell silent. Our protagonist wondered in his mind, what the heck happened here? When he took a step back, he accidentally stepped on his phone, which was strange because he didn't remember dropping it. Suddenly, on the phone screen, a new message appeared, saying that the connection was being checked and the administrator succession had been completed. Strange figures appeared above our protagonist's head without him noticing, and the phone displayed a notification saying, "Welcome to Disastrous, Administrator." A little later, already outside the dungeon, the group that had abandoned our protagonist was tired and breathless. At this point, Kang declared, "Darn, even if I have bad luck, it should be within reason. How is it possible to encounter an elite monster in a rank C dungeon?" But his sycophantic friends started saying, "Wow, man, you're so smart. You're a genius for using Myong as bait. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't be here now." Hearing this, Kang responded that there was a reason his channel was called Without Strategy, because he relied heavily on the art of improvisation. However, at this moment, our protagonist arrived, which took Kang by surprise because he thought our protagonist was dead. When he turned around, he noticed a fist coming towards him. Despite the poor quality of his channel, at least his reflexes as a rank B adventurer were very good, and he managed to deflect the protagonist's punch and counterattacked, saying, "Do you think you can hit me, you nobody? I don't know how you survived, but that's good. After all, it would be a hassle to go looking for another editor out there." Obviously, our protagonist, who wasn't foolish, asked if he was an idiot, thinking that he would go back to working with the person who tried to kill him. Kang responded, "Hey buddy, you cried and begged, saying your sister would die without the money for the medicine. I felt sorry for you and helped you, but now you're acting like this. And besides, I lent you money." Our protagonist responded that he had a bad habit of recording everything he saw. He even thought this habit was somewhat silly, but in the end, it was quite useful because it allowed him to record a video of Kang abandoning him. If he edited this video and uploaded it, he would definitely have tons of views. Kang, dropping his nice guy facade, declared that he should simply kill him because, after all, dead men tell no tales. However, This did not stop our protagonist. He declared that he might end up dead, but Kang would go to prison, and the channel Kang worked so hard on would disappear. It was almost like they would die together. However, this intimidation did not work against Kang. Looking at our protagonist with a sarcastic smile, he declared, "Hey buddy Myung-soo, if you really post this video on the internet, the one in danger wouldn't be you but your sister." Then he turned to his colleagues, saying he would look for another editor when he got home and that they should leave now. Hearing Kang's declaration, our protagonist declared, "If you lay a finger on my sister, I won't be able to control myself." Returning home, our protagonist began to analyze the phone he had found in the dungeon, wondering what this GodTube was. Was it the channel of the gods? Because it seemed like it was a place, a website, where anyone and everyone could post videos for everyone in the world to watch. Of course, there were various categories since it dealt with the whole world, but the most sought-after category of all was the hunter category. However, in this GodTube, it was completely different. There were videos of guys battling Lucifer using a holy sword, a speed run of Thor fighting a world-eating snake. It was just crazy content. But among all those videos had something in common. They were all about gods, folklore figures, heroes of legends. In short, the strongest of all. Seeing all this, the protagonist voiced my thoughts. Why the heck are the gods making videos and posting them? Following this line of thinking about gods and legendary heroes, who was that blonde guy he encountered in the dungeon? And why did he give him that phone and leave? However, that was too much information to absorb. Nonetheless, thinking for a moment, if the gods actually make videos and post them on channels, they should have at least 100 million subscribers, right? After all, they are gods. Since he was bored and had nothing else to do, he just watched one of these gods' videos to see what it was like. He found a video and accidentally clicked the subscribe button. Suddenly, a screen appeared saying that if he subscribed to the channel Zhuge Liang, he could learn an S+ rank skill just by watching the video. This took him by surprise. Another system screen appeared saying he had subscribed to the Zhuge Liang channel and that he could subscribe to only 3 channels, which left 2 channels remaining for him to subscribe to. With that, he gained the insight skill, which surprised him greatly. While S rank skills existed, an S+ rank did not currently exist. There were speculations that the unique skills of the 13 heroes who fought against the Demon King could be S+ rank. Observing this, the protagonist thought, wait a minute, skills of this level just by subscribing and watching a video? This doesn't make any sense. Really, now just by subscribing to a channel, the guy gets strong? It's kind of overpowered, right? We need to slow down here, take it easy, calm down. Maybe this S-rank skill wasn't that big of a deal because our protagonist didn't feel anything different. But since his skill is called Insight, perhaps it's a skill that enhances his observational abilities, so changes wouldn't be noticeable. In this case, abstract skills are quite hard to understand with the naked eye. Scrolling a bit more through the GodTube videos, he stumbled upon none other than Hercules, the son of Zeus. To test if he would really gain a skill, he ended up subscribing to his channel. Again, the system notified him that he had subscribed to Hercules' channel and had only 1 channel left to subscribe to. He also gained a skill called Super Strength of SS rank. If he was already surprised with the S+ rank skill, imagine SS. He was so shocked that he hit the table and broke his notebook. That's when he realized he had actually gained the skill, unlike with Insight where he hadn't noticed any change, at least not yet. Since the protagonist had accidentally smashed his notebook, the system notified him that he had used Super Strength, and his proficiency increased to 0.1%. Our protagonist was still wide-eyed. He was amazed at gaining such overpowered skills just by subscribing to a channel. Another thing he couldn't stop pondering was what the heck GodTube was. As he tried to understand what GodTube was, the system notified him that he had a contemplation, and his proficiency in the Insight skill increased by 0.1%. This made the protagonist start questioning if, by reaching 100% proficiency, he could fully master the skill. Looking at Hercules' channel, he noticed a video titled Hercules Personal Training. With such an enticing title, of course, he clicked on it. The video started by showing several people from Olympus completely trapped, and the reason was right in front of them. Hercules had simply ripped out one of Olympus's pillars and began declaring that it was so exciting The stimulation it was causing in his limbs was simply delicious. Man, this Hercules guy isn't right in the head, is he? Probably not. And the protagonist thought he was completely crazy too. Taking advantage of this, who would want Hercules as their personal trainer? Like the protagonist, he didn't want that either, and even tried to cancel the subscription. It made sense since his channel only had one subscriber. However, the system said he couldn't unsubscribe. Suddenly, Hercules started breaking the fourth wall, directly addressing the protagonist, calling him a little grasshopper. He could join the group but couldn't leave as he pleased. The protagonist didn't give up and tried several times, but in the end, he obviously couldn't. The system notified him that once he used a subscription, he couldn't simply cancel it. With that, he only had one channel left to subscribe to and reach his limit. Of course, Hercules reminded our protagonist that tomorrow would be quadriceps training. At that moment, the bastard started calling our protagonist, and from his reaction, we could already guess who it was. Obviously, it was none other than Kang. The protagonist questioned what he wanted now, and Kang even joked with him, saying, "Wow, I thought you would have blocked me, but apparently not." Our protagonist, not wanting any small talk, told him to get straight to the point. Kang declared that he had only called to talk about business. The protagonist, wanting to cut the conversation short, asked why he thought they would work together again. Kang, playing dumb, questioned, "What do you mean? We were working together until recently." Hearing this, the protagonist declared, "Better stop with these jokes and get straight to the point, huh? I'm not liking these jokes or I'll hang up the call." Now this is the treatment this guy deserves. The protagonist is right to go crazy on him. What an annoying guy. And then he declares that he had received a merger proposal from the SH group and asked the protagonist if he would be interested in joining him in this. This SH group was no small fry. It was the top-rated company in the business world of Korea. As the cherry on top, he had recently heard that the group's granddaughter had awakened as a hunter with 2 S-rank abilities. So their intention to enter the world of hunters probably came from there. Kang says exactly that, and for this reason, they are trying to merge with his channel to test these waters in the world of hunters. Hence, the protagonist came into the picture presuming they were talking about the SH group. It was almost certain he would be in, right? But our protagonist responded in the way we all wanted, saying, "No way." However, Kang is very persistent and declares, "But what if you earned $500 per video?" Wow, even I would be interested in that. Because $500, who wouldn't want that? With that, Kang proposes again if he would join him or not. With a smile on his face, our protagonist declares that he wouldn't, which caught Kang off guard since $500 was 10 times the normal rate. In a win-win situation, he asked how much the protagonist wanted per video. Our protagonist responded, 5,000. Obviously, hearing this, Kang got nervous, asking if the protagonist was crazy for asking for such an absurd amount. But in his thoughts, he questioned if the protagonist had realized he was making a lot of money from the SH group. As he was broadly discussing with Kang, his insight skill began to increase in proficiency. The protagonist then asks Kang a question that left him puzzled. Why do you think the SH group is willing to work with you instead of using S-rank hunters? The answer was quite simple. Since his granddaughter had awakened as a hunter not with one, but with 2 S-rank abilities, President Han Cheron of the SH group wouldn't just sit back and hand over the hunting world. No, for sure, he would start with the basics of hunting. Even though the hunter's world was very risky, talking about the basics of hunting, the answer lay in monster strategy. So far, his channel had accumulated 210,000 subscribers. And of course, with the videos, he made a lot of money thanks to the unique strategies the protagonist drew up. Following this line of thinking, it was obvious that President Han Cheron approached him not because of him, but because of the protagonist's knowledge about monsters. Hearing this, Kang was in shock and asked, "But what if I pay you the $5,000? With an impassive expression, the protagonist responds, "Didn't I already say no? Boy, I'm liking this protagonist. I hope he puts this guy in his place. I'm sure he will come back to pester him in the future, but I hope he wipes the floor with this annoying guy." He gets all angry and the protagonist doesn't stop there, saying that if it doesn't work, then simply dive into your savings, take out loans, and end your life, or better yet, try to find another editor as you said yourself. In the end, Kang accepted the protagonist's proposal, and they were already inside a rank B dungeon. The protagonist asked when the rest of the money would be deposited into his account. Kang replied that he would send the rest as soon as they finished everything there. At the same moment, he also received a message that Han Cheron had arrived. When they looked back, there she was, the granddaughter of the SH group, Han Cheron. She arrived scolding them, saying that she would participate in the raid and that they should leave immediately. With all that beauty in front of him, the protagonist was surprised. Who wouldn't be? Even I was a bit surprised. But as they say, every rose has its thorns, and it seemed difficult to get close to her. Nevertheless, our protagonist remained calm and focused, thinking that as long as he was paid, nothing else mattered. He should just concentrate on his work. A little later, deeper into the dungeon, they encountered their first monster. While the protagonist positioned the camera to make the video, Han asked if it was a troll. Kang, taking the opportunity to show off, said she was right, explaining that trolls are classified as B rank and have an almost fatal regenerative ability. Without a strategy, they would just waste their energy. Of course, you didn't think he would do it so neatly without knowing anything, right? Obviously not. The strategy was created by our protagonist. The strategy he had created, or rather, our protagonist had created, was to avoid the troll's regeneration. To do this, they had to completely tear apart its body, destroy its heart, and then decapitate it. Hearing this, she instantly drew her sword and attacked the troll, following the strategy to the letter. She struck right in the middle of the troll's heart and then quickly decapitated it in one blow. Seeing all of this, both the protagonist and Kang were amazed, and she declared that it was very easy. If she did it so quickly, there wouldn't even be a video. It would be like a Thor speedrun. The sycophant Kang didn't want to miss another opportunity and started declaring, "Wow, even though I declared it rudely, you understood it perfectly, as expected from an S-class hunter?" Swinging her sword to remove the blood, she said, "You flatter me too much." When she swung the sword, the protagonist noticed a kind of aura around it. He commented that he had heard of such a weapon made by a guy named Aurelia and asked what the value of that weapon was. Responding as if it was the most natural thing in the world, she said, "Oh, I don't know, about 20 billion won. It's not a small thing, right? But she is the granddaughter of the richest man in Korea, so it's like pocket change for her." She continued, saying she didn't understand the strategy very well yet, so they needed to hunt more trolls to understand it better. An hour later, a bit deeper into the dungeon, she declared that she understood the strategy a little now. Since there seemed to be no more trolls, they should go back. The sycophant Kang once again went up to her, bowing respectfully, saying, "Thank you for your hard work." She simply acknowledged his praise impassively. Hearing that kind of response from her in that tone, he began to boil with anger inside, because he thought he had lost a great opportunity to associate with the SH group, and he was putting all the blame on our protagonist. However, our protagonist wasn't foolish and knew what he was thinking. Out of nowhere, the dungeon started shaking as if it were an earthquake. Kang immediately thought, "Wow, this is my opportunity." Han asked what that was, and Kang commented that it was probably an elite monster. However, just by the sound of the crash, it was likely not an elite monster but a boss monster. Before them stood a crazy monster with bones sticking out, a cut horn full of bubbles, a piece of rock on its shoulder, a crazy thing. Since Han was the strongest there, she had to protect everyone in the group. Seeing the whole situation, it seemed like deja vu because Kang's group once again started to run away, leaving Han behind. And we'll see it in the next episode. Remember to subscribe and leave a like.